Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm already a lettering artist from the Gold Coast in Australia. I'm passionate about helping other creatives improve their skills and sell digital products online. I have my own online lettering courses and design resources available, so if you want to check them out, make sure to check out my website. In this video, I'm going to show you probably one of the easiest way to design a font with your iPad using one app called Fontself. You may have heard of this app as an extension for Illustrator or Photoshop, but they've now released their own standalone app that you can use to create an entire font from scratch using just your iPad. Fontself is free to download, and its vision is all about being the simplest and fastest font creation tool ever made on planet Earth. I've linked it in the description if you want to check it out. The app is extremely intuitive and easy to use. You don't need to know anything about vectors or type design to start having fun with the app and create a working typeface. It's perfect for beginners or even more advanced type designers, as it allows you to draw vectors and generate a working font in seconds. In this video, I'm going to give you a quick tour of the app and show you how it works. Then I'll show you how to create a serif typeface, find inspiration, draw your sketches, draw your vector letter forms in the app, test out your font, and then how to export it so you can use it in an app like Procreate, for example. Let's do this. Alright, so let's just start by taking a quick look at the app. So when you open the app on your iPad, this is the basic interface that comes up. As you can see here, you've got a couple of templates. So you've got hand, curl, scribe, gothic, graffiti, and sans serif. These are just templates that you can use as a background when you design your font. And you can either use a template or a blank sheet. And as soon as you start creating your typefaces, they will then appear here. So I have created a few already myself. The interface is quite simple. Essentially, all you need is one of those templates. Your fonts will appear here. And if you have any questions and you want to give feedback or report a bug or watch a tutorial, everything should be in here on that little icon there. So let's just have a look at one of my fonts that I have created. So this is the font we're going to try and redo today, and I just want to show you what it looks like once it's completed. So as you can see here, I have used a template in the background, and I simply used a sans serif typeface. As you can see, I didn't really follow it, but it was still there in the background, and it gave me a good indication as to where I was going to position my letter forms. You can see here, these are all of my uppercases. I haven't done lower cases, but I could definitely do that if I had more time. These are numerals, special characters, and that's pretty much it regarding the characters. At the top here is where your letters are going to appear. So at the moment, I only have uppercase, so they're all appearing here at the top. This is your home button if you want to come back to all your typefaces, and here is your settings. So that's where you can change your viewing settings if you want to kind of decide not to display the characters template, if you want to hide the guides, for example, the cells, the grid. It's very, very intuitive. I would recommend just going into the app and just play around with those settings and just see for yourself. If you have questions, again, the icon is here. These arrows are just if you want to undo or redo something, but you can double tap just like Procreate. And these are the tools that you're gonna need when you design your letter forms. So this is just the selection tool. This is your brush, and you can see here there's a couple of different brushes. I'll go over those in a minute, but again, I would recommend just playing around with them and adjusting the size. You can change the angle. So this one is like a brush. This one is more of a pencil. This one is a pen. This one is a quallam, which is more like a straight edge, and this one is a marker. So plenty of brushes, very similar to Procreate. Depending on the typeface you want to create today, you might need different type of brushes. So yeah, I would recommend just playing with those brushes and just having a go, drawing whatever you want without overthinking it, and just test the brushes for yourself. And you can adjust the streamline as well, just as Procreate. So this is really going to help when you draw curvy shapes, for example. It's just going to make the line very smooth and kind of remove all harsh lines, and that's super helpful. And again, you can change the amount of streamline you're adding. And then you've got the eraser. I don't need to really explain that, but same thing here. You can change the size of your eraser and just erase things that you want to undo. This is just settings regarding the letter spacing or the word spacing. So letter spacing is the kerning, the word spacing would be the space in between each word, so it will be pretty much the space bar, which is an actual character in your font. But you don't have to worry about that with this app. It's all thought for you. So here you can adjust the letter spacing of your letter forms, kind of figure out what would work best for the type of font you're designing. And this is the word space, so you can see it's just adding some more space in between each words. This button here, we'll go over that at the end, but this is where you can export your file and make it a working font and start using your font. So we'll go over that at the end. This is all regarding the character set. So at the moment I have all of those characters here, but I could decide to add more special characters. So if I wanted to add, I don't know, letter forms with accents for French, for example, this is where I would do it. And if I want to add more glyphs for special characters, here I've got the basic amount. So these are very like the most essential characters that you may need, like an ampersand, a dollar sign, the @ sign, but it might be that you need more, so you would be able to do that if you go extended, it's just gonna add more characters. So it's very, very simple. Like, you don't really have to know anything about type design. Literally everything is just there for you already. So you just have to draw your letters. So let's get into that now. I wanna talk to you about my font. So I've decided to do a uppercase serif typeface. So this is what I'm going to teach you today. I always start by doing some type of sketches before and try and find some inspiration before I start doing anything. So you guys are more than welcome to do something similar to my typeface, but if you want to do something different, I would recommend going through that process as well and go look for some inspiration and start drawing some rough ideas on paper or in an app like Procreate First, whatever works for you. So I'm going to show you exactly my process for creating this typeface that you can see here. One of the first thing I did was to go on Pinterest. If you guys have been doing any classes with me before, you would know that I love going on Pinterest to find inspiration. I use it as reference, and what I like about Pinterest is that if you find an image that you like, you can just click on it and it will show you similar images. So I find that very useful. So for example, if I like this typeface here, I click on it and then it shows me more pictures like this. So I would recommend that you do that first of all if you need to find some ideas for your font. So recently I've been doing quite a few custom letter forms that have this very cute type of serif. I've been drawing a lot of like typefaces that have kind of like curvy serifs and pointy edges, and it's quite condensed. I'll show you another example. This is probably the best example here. I have done this typeface where it's kind of like very heavy contrast between very thin stroke and thicker stroke, and it's very condensed, very tall, and it has those very cute pointy serifs. And I think I want to recreate that. I already have that basic idea in my mind, so all I'm gonna do now is try and figure out what style I'm gonna go for and how I can apply that style to all of my characters. So at the moment here you can see I have the A, R, G, T, E, and I can use that as my reference, as my starting point, and then from that use the elements from those letter forms to create other letter forms. So I'm gonna kind of break down the process for you guys so you can really see how I design an entire alphabet and make sure it looks nice and consistent. So first things first, I'm gonna start drawing sketches on paper and use that as my inspiration. So I love this type of paper because it has some tiny little grids already, so it's like little lines. If you draw with paper, and it's blank, I would recommend drawing some guides for you. So I'm gonna draw one guide just so you guys can see how I would do it. So just grabbing a ruler, just gonna draw some lines. Okay, so this would be my ascender line. So this is where the top of my uppercase letters would be. This would be my baseline. So this is where every of my letter form is going to sit. And then this will depend on the style of your typeface. Of course, you should place the X height, which would be the height of your lowercase letters. But in my case, I'm not doing lowercases, so I don't really need to worry about that. But I still want to draw a line as a reference, maybe the middle. And that's where I could position maybe my crossbar, for example, the crossbar on the H or on the A and things like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and draw a min line just in the middle. That's going to be my reference. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a few so I can pretty much prepare some guides for multiple letter forms. I'm not going to draw all of them, but if it's your first time designing a font, I would recommend drawing them all just so that you have a reference. Just gonna be easier. I know it's a long process, but promise it is worth the effort. So I already have an inspiration, so I can go ahead and start drawing uppercase A, for example. So this is gonna be approximated, like it's not gonna be exactly perfect, but that's just going to give me kind of an idea of what the shape may look like. So I know I want to create that effect at the top, that type of serif, and then I'm gonna try and do exactly the same here. Again, it can be pretty rough. You're just getting an idea for the style. Okay, and here I will need to make the same shape but skinnier. And then I could place the crossbar wherever I want. So I could follow the min line, but I think it's just gonna be too tall. So I think it would look nice to be maybe one row underneath, something like that. So when you draw uppercase letter forms, guys, you will start to notice that your letter forms can be grouped into 3 different categories. So you have all of your round letter forms. So that will be your O, your G, your C, etc. You would have also your triangle letter forms, which could be your A, your V, your W, etc. And then last one would be your square letter forms, which could be your H, your T, your E, F, etc. So you'll start to notice that shapes can be reused as well. So let's say I start drawing the left-hand side of the O, I could reuse that for the left-hand side of the G or the C, etc. And here, for example, with that A, I could flip it upside down and that's gonna be my uppercase V. So that triangle here, I can reuse exactly that same shape for the V. So that is an easy one, like that's probably one of the easiest letter combination that you can make. But again, I'm going to draw it just to make sure I have like a visual representation of what I want it to look like, because once we get into Fontself, it's better to have a pretty good idea of what you're trying to draw rather than just like guessing once you're in the app. This one is easy. Let's do round letter form now. So again, I'm not gonna draw them all. I'm just gonna draw a couple for each group. So I am going to do maybe the O, for example. I know I want it to be kind of tall, maybe the same width as the A. So it will be something like that. With the O, guys, something you should know if you want to design proper typefaces is that that curvy shape goes slightly below the baseline and slightly above the ascender height. It's called overshoot. It's just going to help make sure that your letter form doesn't look too small, because if it's sitting exactly on the baseline, it might look smaller, like it's just a optical illusion. And yeah, kind of happy with that. Not 100% perfect, but we can fix that in the app later. So let's say I'm happy with that. I'm gonna do the C. So the C, I could reuse exactly that shape and make it hopefully as similar as possible. Again, I'm trying to do the same width here as here and here. You guys can see that. So that will be the left-hand side of my uppercase C. And I need to create like a little serif to end the shape at the end of the stroke. And I know I want it to be kind of like that. So kind of like that double curl, but I think it needs to be a bit longer for that one so that it really creates that nice C shape. All right, now let's say I was gonna sketch the G. I would reuse all of this part, and all I would have to change is this and make it kind of straight and kind of go this way. So I'm gonna skip this step, guys, so that this video doesn't get too long, but these are essentially what I would need to follow for my triangle shapes, and this one for my circle shape. So now let's do a square. It's the easiest. Something I always recommend is not starting with the easiest letter form as well, and not starting with A, B, C, like it's tending to go A, B, C, but sometimes it's easier when you design an entire typeface to start with the most difficult letters, and then you just have to kind of follow your own guide. So let's do the easy one, the easy square one. So that's probably what I'm going to start with when I start drawing in the app. So I'm probably going to start with the uppercase I. All right, the cat had to make an appearance, of course. So I'm probably going to start with the uppercase I, which is essentially just an upright, straight stroke. So that's basic shape that I can reuse. So I can reuse that for uppercase R, I can reuse it for the H, for the T, for the E, F, L, so many letter forms. So that's probably the most important one. So let's say I have that. Now all I have to do is recreate the same two shapes for my H, for example. Doing my best here to try and make that as similar as possible, and trying to like recreate the same shapes every time is really what's going to make your letters look like they're from the same family. So I like to think of my letter forms as member of a family, so they all have like similar traits, but they all have their own face, but they have similar features. That really shows that they're from the same family, if that makes sense. So those little serifs here, if I make sure they're all the same everywhere, it's really gonna make my typeface more consistent, and it's gonna make it look more cohesive and look more like a real family. Another thing that you can do as well is kind of have your crossbar matching. Let's say here my crossbar is just 2 square above the baseline. I can do the same here. So 1, 2, just 2 square above the baseline, and make sure it's similar. So that way the typeface looks cohesive. Also, when we get into the app, I will show you how you can do that, but you can literally just copy and paste the crossbar. Copying and pasting elements is really what's going to make your typeface more cohesive, and it's also making your work so much easier because you're just copying and pasting stuff, and it's gonna save you a lot of time. All right, so these are my basic sketches. If you're doing your own font, I would recommend you draw every letter forms like that first. It's just gonna make the whole process a lot quicker. I know it seems like it's a very tedious job at the start, at the beginning, but I promise that once you get into the app, it's just gonna make the process a lot easier. Also, if you get stuck with one letter form, let's say for example the S, you have no idea how to draw an S, you're trying your best, you've tried everything, but it doesn't look the way you want to. My best advice is that you go back to any typeface that you already have, any classic typeface, and have a look at how they're constructed. And it doesn't mean that you're gonna copy the letter form, but you're going to use it as a reference. So for example, here, if I'm struggling with the S, I would simply go to a website like the Adobe font website. So if you click all fonts, you can actually go through the different typeface classifications. So if you're doing, I don't know, a geometric typeface, a condensed typeface, whatever that might be, you can just go through that and use that as your reference. So in my case, it would definitely be a serif typeface, and it will be a condense. And I can make sure it has high contrast as well. I think that's gonna help. Oh, this is quite good. Actually, I'm gonna have a look at this one. Here, you can simply type in any letter form that you need to draw and that you're struggling with. So in the sample text bar, you can just decide to find uppercase S, for example, and that's gonna give me like a pretty good indication of what my S may look like. So yeah, if you're struggling with a letter form, I would recommend that you go back to a website like the Adobe Fonts website and just have a look at the letter form and what it's supposed to look like. So let's open the app and let's create a new font. In my case, I am going to, like I said, use a template. So it's the sans serif template, but I'm gonna add my serifs to it, so it doesn't matter, to be honest. It's just there as a reference, as a guide, but I'm not really going to follow it exactly. So I'm gonna add more guides, because I think the more guides, the better. You go on the setting button here, you can actually decide to display the cells, and I'm gonna add the grids as well. And as I was saying to you guys, I'm gonna start with the letter I, which is the easiest one. So when you draw your letter forms, you can start with the hardest, but when you actually create the final shape, the final vector shape, then you can start with the easiest. All right, let's grab the brush. So in my case, all I need is the pencil brush. Let's just play with it. Cool. You can obviously adjust the size. I'm gonna make it slightly bigger. If we go back to my sketches, I'm gonna start with this one. Essentially, they're the same shape flipped on both sides. So it's like a symmetrical shape. So all I need to do really is draw this shape. So it's like a straight rectangle here, and then one serif at the top, and then same serif at the bottom. So essentially, all I need to do is this. And then I can flip it vertically, and then flick both shapes horizontally. So let me show you guys how I would do it. So I would go ahead and draw my straight line. Just as Procreate, guys, you can draw, hold, and it's just gonna snap it to like vertical axis, which is exactly what I want. Okay, so I'm gonna do that. And then I'm gonna try and draw a serif. Again, you can draw and hold, and it's just gonna draw a perfect curve. If you need to erase something, just grab your eraser. You can erase little shapes like that. So that's pretty magic, because see, it just like made it smooth by itself. Like it's just not gonna allow you to have very rough and weird lines. So it's almost doing all of the hard work for you. Still have to obviously like make sure it's nice and consistent, but it's pretty much doing it for you, which is awesome. All right, so I have this shape here. I'm gonna close my shape like that. And then if you want to fill it with color, you just tap and hold, and you're just gonna fill it with color. I want this shape to be a bit more sharp. So using my eraser, what I'm gonna do is gonna create a curve as well, like that, and position it where I think it's gonna look best. Use two finger to undo, just double tap. And I don't know if you guys saw that, but it's just like creating like a perfect curve for you. Like I didn't have to do anything. Great, so now with my selection tool, I can select the entire shape, which is a vector now, which is amazing. Just gonna position it somewhere like that. And then I'm just gonna duplicate it. So I'm just gonna use copy and paste. So to copy, you simply click that button here, so that second icon, and then paste is the left icon. So it doesn't really show you anything, but I have two shapes now. And here I can flip it horizontally or vertically, so I'm gonna flip it and then position it somewhere around here. Perfect. And then I'm going to grab both shapes, copy them, paste them, and then flip them, and there you go. As I was saying to you before, guys, you have those three groups of letter forms. So what I would recommend that you do is you try and create all of the square shapes first. Obviously there's no right or wrong, there's no like specific order, but I'm gonna try and do all of the square shapes first because they're the easiest, and then I might do my triangle shapes and then the circle shapes, which is probably, personally, I reckon the most difficult. Let's get into it. So now that I have my main basic shape, I can just copy and paste that shape and reuse it. To paste, you just select anything and it's just gonna pop up that little paste icon. You can do it just like that. And then I'm gonna position it. So I have this guide in the background, but to be honest, like I'm not really following it. But I know my letter form needs to be somewhere around here. So I know it's gonna be skinnier than this template. So let's just copy and paste it and duplicate it. So something like that. And then I'm just gonna create the crossbar, which I know I want it quite low. I've drawn it once. What I can do is select it, copy and paste, and then just make it a bit thicker, I think. And then I can just select that and use that for the A. So that's done. And as you guys can see, I have created the I and the H now, so they are appearing at the top there. So that bar at the top is literally showing you every single characters in your typeface. So that's what this like crazy sentence is about. It's actually one sentence that has all of the letter forms of the alphabet. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. So that will give you like a good overview as well. That's one of the, I believe, greatest feature of this app. It's that you can instantly see the changes that you're making. So if you're adding something, changing something, you can instantly see what it looks like in context. And I think that's something I have never seen in any other apps. And I think that's just brilliant because a lot of the time you're not sure if something is maybe too thin, too thick, or if something needs to be wider, whatever that might be. And it's just great to see it like in context straight away, like it's instant, like you don't have to do anything. So it's really something that I appreciate about this app. All right, let's keep going. I'm gonna try and do another square letter so you guys can see. In that case, I would probably go to the E next. So again, I would select this shape and put it there. So I'm going to show you this letter as well so you guys can see. But same thing here, I would start by drawing the top part of the shape, just drawing and holding it so it's a nice smooth curve. And then erasing anything so it's nice and pointy. It just makes the entire process so quicker as well. Like you don't have to really like spend hours with vector points and making sure everything is like nice and smooth. So another thing that I really loved about this app is that you can do this type of curves as well. Like look at that. It's just making it smooth, because that's not something I think you can do in Procreate, but here you can do like this wavy weird line and it's just gonna make it super smooth, which is really good, and it just makes the process a lot easier. If you were to do it in another app like Glyphs or Illustrator, it would just be a lot more time consuming and it will require a lot more patience. Whereas here, just draw it and then makes the shape smooth for you. You don't have to deal with vector points and things like that. So really easy way to create fonts. Probably easiest app for that. And you can see it's like doing it for you. Like it's kind of maybe hard to see on the camera, but just gonna smooth every line for you. Okay, so got this. I can copy and paste that down below. All right, so the same way I did those curves, I did the crossbar of the E, which if you guys are doing an uppercase E, I would recommend that you jump straight into the uppercase F, because essentially they're the same shapes. You just get rid of this part here. So let's go ahead and do that. Copy, paste, let's just get rid of that. Eraser bigger. All right guys, so I'm not gonna go through every single characters with you because that would be a very long video, but you get the idea. You know exactly how to copy and paste components of each letter form, so the round, the square and the triangle components. Now essentially all you have to do is do every single characters like that until you've filled the entire uppercase and lowercase. If you have the patience and the motivation, you can also do numerals, special characters, etc. I've only just done uppercases for this one. If I get the time, I would probably finish it and do the rest, but that's pretty much all you need really. If you just want to have a working typeface, be able to type a couple of words and play with your typeface, that's all you need, and I would recommend that you start with that if this is the first time doing a typeface, for example. Obviously mine is quite complex. I have decided to go with a proper serif typeface, but by all means feel free to just play around with the app and just go ahead and play maybe with a script typeface and do like a brush type of font. So you would just go ahead and essentially do the same thing and use a different brush, and you could just go ahead and create whatever it is that you want to create. Be as creative as you want. You can see how simple it is. I just love it. It's the type of app that you would spend hours on. Alright, so now I want to show you guys how you can test your font. So as I was saying to you before, you can see here your typeface in context and what it looks like with other characters into a sentence. But you can also do more with this app and test your typeface with different backgrounds, with different words and things like that, which is another great thing about this app. And this is super simple once again. If you click on this icon here, that's where you can actually showcase your typeface and play with it in context. So let's just go ahead and click type and showcase. So here, that's where you have the possibility to look at your typeface and see what it looks like in context. Obviously, as you can see here, I haven't done lowercase, so it's just showing a default font, but you can see here what it would look like on an image. And then you can actually change the image and replace it with whatever you want. You can change the color of the text. Again, I would recommend that you go ahead and play with those settings. You can add a border, and yeah, very intuitive. Like, there's nothing difficult about it. Like, everything is pretty straightforward. What I love as well is that, look at that, like I didn't do any vector work, any Photoshop or whatever. It's already there. It's already looking like a commercial font. And you can change the format. So if I want to post it as a story, it's a square or landscape. So yeah, you can use pre-made template, but you can create your own as well. And that's pretty much it. We've done a full tour of the app, all the things you can do. Last thing you may want to do is export your font, of course. I would recommend that before you do that, before you export it and use it in another app on your laptop or in Procreate, whatever, is to rename your font. So before you export it, I would recommend that you give it a name. So in order to rename the font, you just tap and hold on your font and then you can click rename. So I've named mine Coccinelle, which means ladybug in French. So try and give it a cute name. I think it's so much better to have a name for your font. Okay, so mine has a name already, so I can export it. And what I'm gonna do is click on export font file. Here you can decide to save it wherever you want. So I'm just gonna save mine to my files and just to my downloads, and I'm gonna click save. So once you've saved your file, it should appear as an OTF file, which is the standard format for any font. So that's perfect. You can just go ahead and tap on it and we'll install it on your device. If you wanna bring it to Procreate, as I know I do, very easy. You just go into your Procreate app and let's just add some text. So once you go into the style for your typeface, here you can import your typeface. So you just go import font, top right corner, and then you just go into your files and you select the typeface. I have already done mine, so once you've done it, it should appear in your list of fonts, and there she is, Coccinelle. Just change the color of the text so you can see what we're doing. Select the right font and then you can change the size, change the kerning here, and there you go. You have made a font in under an hour, which is incredible. This usually would take me, I don't know, hours, maybe days. Obviously, if I wanted to in a working typeface, I would probably use a software like Glyph, but I reckon this app is just so much easier and just makes the process a lot quicker. So that's perfect for anyone trying to test out a font, if you want to make sure you like the style of it, or if you just want like a quick font that you can use as your handwriting. And as you've seen, everything is like super simple, super intuitive. Like anybody can do it. Like anybody that is not a typeface designer can get on the app and start making their own font. So that's it. We've done a tour of the app. I hope I haven't forgotten anything, but if you have any questions, anything you'd like to know, feel free to just drop your questions in the comments. I'm more than happy to help you if you need help designing a typeface. So quickly, just to go over what we talked about, you really want to make sure that you have a strong idea before you start. So make sure you have picked a style, that you have some type of inspiration. Maybe go through Pinterest to make sure you know what you want to do. then I would recommend that you sketch out all of your ideas on paper first, just to make sure you know what you want to do, and when you get in the app you're not unsure about what to draw. Obviously this step is optional, you can absolutely go straight away into the app and start drawing. Then I would recommend that you reuse stroke components for every letter form. So the more you can reuse each elements of your letter forms, the better, because your typeface will look more cohesive and every letter form is gonna look like they belong to the same family. And yeah, I would recommend that you draw as many letters as possible, enough so that you can write words, and then you can test your font. And I would recommend that you adjust the settings if needed. So if you need to change the kerning, or if you need to change a couple of letter forms after you've tested it, I recommend that you do that to make sure everything is like nice and consistent. And then you can export your file as an OTF, and you can share it with the world. You can share it with anyone, and anyone will be able to install it on their device. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that this makes you want to give the app a go and try to design your own font in Fontself. If you have any questions, again, just let me know, and if you want to, feel free to tag me so I can have a look at your work. Have fun making fonts, and I'll see you in the next video.